Hello, bonjour, and welcome to your Alti Wine Exchange video. These videos where we talk about and taste exceptional wines, collectible wines, bottles worth investing on for the years, if not decades to come. Today I'm going to tell you the story of a rare red wine coming from a pioneering winery in Chile, South America, the story of a pioneer winemaker in the name of Aurelio Montes, who dared to plant vines on extremely steep vineyard slopes to produce the best Syrah wine he could possibly make. I'm also going to be tasting this jewel of a wine, which is the first ultra premium Chilean Syrah in an exceptional 2011 vintage, the rare Montes Folly Syrah that is now available through the Alti Wine Exchange platform. And I will be telling you the story of what makes this wine special, what it tastes like, and how many more years it can be aged for. But first, let's have a quick look at the background story behind this wine and its makers. In 1987, Aurelio Montes and Douglas Murray, two businessmen with ample experience in the world of wine, wanted to bring to life their dreams of making world-class wine in Chile, which, wasn't that big of a wine producing country at the time. They settled in an area whose potential wasn't discovered at the time, but that is now considered one of the best regions in Chile to make high-end world-class wines, the Colchagua Valley. So young Aurelio Montes, who was a winemaker in the area back then, knew he could make great things in that particular area. With another two founding partners, they founded the Montes Winery in the best area of the Colchagua Valley, which is called Aparta. Now things got even more interesting when on the Montes estate they decided to plant vines not only on the flat bottom of the valley, which is what Chileans used to do, but also on the hillsides. And that's in the early 1990s. Everyone thought they were crazy, as the steep slopes make viticulture much harder. Yet it turned out to be a good choice, as it is on these mountains that Montes can now produce their best wines, because vines struggle more on the slopes, making for more concentrated wines, and we will find out how concentrated it is in a minute. Three things are rare about Montes Folly. One, it is made from the Syrah grape, which is a rather unusual thing for Chile. Of course, Syrah is a grape of French origin that makes some of the best wines in the world, like in the Rhone Valley of France, wines like Côte-Rôtie, Hermitage or Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Syrah also makes, obviously, some of the best and most expensive wines coming out of Australia, like the iconic Penfolds Grange. There's a great pedigree there in the grape variety that makes this wine, but Chileans have generally been focusing on other grape varieties such as the Cabernet Sauvignon, the Carmenère, but not Syrah. Secondly, Montes Folly Syrah vines are planted on the steepest and highest slopes on Montes Vineyard on their Aparta estate we were talking about earlier. Some of these slopes reaching a staggering, 45 degrees incline. So that's just insanely steep. Essentially, everyone thought Montes Aurelio was just crazy, one for planting Syrah in Chile, this particular grape, and more importantly to plant on such difficult terrain. And that's in fact why this particular wine is actually called Folly, because it is to reflect the sad madness of Aurelio Montes for taking on such a challenge of making this very wine. History though proved him right, as Montes Folly is arguably his best wine growing and winemaking success. Often the hardest grapes to grow make for the best wines. The third thing that is rare about this wine, is its label. The art is designed by acclaimed illustrator Ralph Steedman and is considered a collector item because his paintings change every available vintage for this wine, just like some very famous porter wines that you probably have in mind as well. The 2011 vintage, this very vintage label, is themed as the illustration of the snow-capped Osorno volcano and the beautiful Emerald Lake in Patagonia, the extreme south of Chile and the American continent more generally. To refine this wine and deepen its flavors, Montes Folly was aged for 18 months in the finest French oak barrels at the winery's state-of-the-art circular aging room. Famous international wine critic James Suckling scored this very wine a whopping 97 out of 100 points. So we're talking the high end of the high end, the best of the creme de la creme of the wines in the world. This is what James Suckling said about this 2011 Montes Folly Syrah. Fabulous aromas of dark berries and granite, flowers and slight raw meat too. Full-bodied and velvety with incredible lengths. And we'll find out what I think about it in just a minute. James Suckling said this is clearly the best Syrah of Chile, very exciting in a great year for Syrah with a long hang time. So long growing season for those fruits, which gave it such a finesse. But we'll find out about it. But enough said about the wine, let's find out what Montes Folly Vintage 2011 actually tastes like at 8 years of age to this day. So let's dig into what Montes Folly Syrah 2011 vintage actually tastes like. The color, as I can already see just by pouring the wine, the color is, as expected, really dense and dark like we expect from Syrah. It looks surprisingly vibrant though for an 8-year-old wine. It still looks young and shiny, and that's quite surprising for this 2011 vintage. The nose is really deep and captivating. It combines elegant notes of violet, it's rather floral but also very fruity. It's got some fresh blackberry and ripe dark cherry. The depth of the aromatic profile though comes from really profound notes of dark chocolate and coffee with sweetening caramel tones to smoothen things up a little bit. The whole is lifted by the typical black pepper aromas that is so typical of the grape, of the Syrah grape. It's really fascinating and enchanting from so much depth and so many aromas. On the palate, the wine is extremely smooth and silky. Sure, it's got all the weight and the rich texture that we love and expect from Syrah, but everything is delivered with smoothness and balance. The powerful flavors of rich fruit and spices come through very elegantly and tamed down somehow by the balance of the wine. Despite the Folly being a rather big wine, it tastes utterly harmonious, perfectly balanced, which results in a totally seamless tasting experience. And that's really what strikes me when I taste this wine. It feels like nothing is too much or too powerful in the wine, but nothing is not enough at the same time. Just a nearly perfect balance. So truly, this is the mark of a great world-class wine that can deliver not only complexity and length and a myriad of layers and a myriad of flavors, but it's all delivered with a nearly perfect and elegant harmony when you taste it. And this is clearly the mark of the wines that are in the top 1% on the global scale of quality of wine. Clearly, this is a wine that is above 95 out of 100 points in that extremely rare upper quality level. As for aging potential, well, the wine feels surprisingly young still, even though it's aged for 8 years at this point. So this feels like a wine that will still be fantastic in probably 20 years. It'll still feel young and the fruit will still be there. So this is a wine with an extremely long aging potential. I wouldn't be surprised if this wine was extremely good to taste in the year 2040, perhaps even 2050. Yes, Montes Folly is truly something really special with a long aging potential. And that's going to be it for me today. I'll leave it here. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Signing off, Julian Michael for RT Wine Exchange. I will see you soon in the wonderful world of fine and rare wine investment. Au revoir, santé.